Amazing to have you here and welcome to our LinkedIn Live today. It's about Agentforce security, myth versus reality. Today, we're getting real about Agentforce and AI agent security in Salesforce. Agentforce is definitely at the core of many Salesforce teams' roadmaps and a key ingredient in many AI initiatives in general. However, it's a little unclear of how secure these AI agents actually are. I'm joined by two dear colleagues and bright minds, Connor Casey, Head of Customer Success and Pre-Sales at WithSecure, and Tapas Tripathy, Salesforce engineer and architect at WithSecure, who's been at the forefront of building security capabilities specifically for Agentforce and Salesforce. Welcome both.
Thank you, Elisa.
Thank you.
And now, before we get into the myths, let's get the basics straight. So, Salesforce has had automation and AI capabilities for many, many years, but Agentforce now is something else entirely. It's not just smarter automation, it's the start of a truly autonomous agentic AI workforce that lives right inside Salesforce. With that in mind, Connor, our first myth is Agentforce is just another Salesforce feature. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and thank you, Elisa. So Agentforce is definitely not just a new feature. It's not a flow or automation tool. It's really Salesforce's sort of full-fledged bet on agentic AI. And in this day and age, companies need to embrace AI to keep up in today's world, and Agentforce really sort of democratizes companies' ability to do that. So it lets them leverage AI in their existing sort of platforms without needing to hire AI specialists, build their own language models, etc. So it's really not just a new feature, but it is sort of a shift in direction and strategy for the company from a CRM to really an AI company.
Thanks, Connor. And we have seen Salesforce report incredible productivity gains from their internal Agentforce deployments, and those have been also validated by third parties like Harvard Business Review. The truth still is that we're quite early with this technology, so it's evolving fast, and we haven't seen the full picture yet. And that's exactly why it's not just about what the agents can do, but it's about what they might do. These agents are getting smarter and more autonomous day by day, and there may be risks that haven't ever have to be considered before. Which now brings us to our next myth. AI agents don't need their own security strategy. With AI agents working across omni-channel workflows, thinking chat, email, WhatsApp, Slack, they're surfacing threats that might be quite surprising to companies. What are your thoughts about this, Tapas?
Yeah, as you said, definitely AI agents are everywhere. So they are drafting response for the customers, and also they are handling customer support cases, even jumping into Slack conversation. But as seems to be interesting, but there are some security risk customers or companies are not fully prepared for, such as prompt injection. When someone sends a tricky message and your AI spills sensitive data or invokes unintended action. And that's what happened with one of Chevrolet's dealership. The chatbot AI was tricked to have a to sold Tahoe for $1 to a user, and that's how it is. There can be data leakage as AI agents have access to multiple system, internal and external, so they can pull wrong data and put it in the wrong place. So think about an AI sent an email response which contains your internal HR note. So there are similar cases. Also, there are hallucinations. When AI hallucinates, it can create some compliance and ethical issues. Also, we sometimes overlook the most important thing, the training data. So if the training data is biased or inaccurate, those flaws can be found in the AI responses as well. So it could spread misinformation or can even give harmful advice to the people. AI agents are definitely powerful, but they need guardrails, oversight, and clear security strategy. because when your AI agent goes off the script, it's not glitch, it's your business risk.
Thanks, Tapas. That's quite a lot to stay on top of, and something that can get quite complex, especially in larger organizations. Who do you, Tapas, think that should actually own the validation process in companies?
Yeah, definitely. Customer should have a kind of defined security strategy for that. They need to have access control at each level. They should regularly audit the models and keep monitoring the um, like AI debug trails and all those things.
Yeah, and like, who do you think is the right person to own this validation that all of this is in place?
Definitely, it should be the company's admin or the technical person who is responsible for deploying agent.
Excellent. So, onwards to the next myth. This is something that we're here all the time, that if it's built into Salesforce, it must be secure. It sounds very reassuring, but it does overlook some very real risks, especially when AI agents are interacting with sensitive data that has been stored on the platform, as Tabas already elaborated. Salesforce obviously is a very highly trusted platform. That's a fact, but something that is often misunderstood and even forgotten is that that's quite an assumption. So many people believe that Salesforce is taking care of all the security areas and everything is completely secured, but that's not really the case because there's the shared responsibility model, and that model states that the platform provider needs to take care of certain security areas, whereas the others are left for the cloud customer using Salesforce platform. So now, when it comes to Agentforce, how secure is that actually by default? So should customers do more about the security areas that fall under their responsibility? Could you, Connor, elaborate on this a little bit?
Yeah, of course. And I think it's an important question for companies to consider as they consider rolling out something like Agentforce. So with the shared responsibility model, right, Salesforce says we'll take care of infrastructure, network level security, but there are things that fall under the customer's responsibility, like application level security, right? Um, who has access to a certain account record, right? Who needs to be able to see that? Who needs to be able to see the related cases? Those are all sort of like uh, basic aspects of application security that customers are responsible for rolling out. So when it comes to Agentforce specifically, right, companies need to consider what data they're exposing to these agents and to these learning models, right? You don't want to, most likely, you don't want to open up your entire Salesforce uh, data log, if you will, right, to these models. We want to start with sort of narrow use cases and really um, strongly consider what data you're feeding into the models, what data these models have access to interact with, to be able to update, to be able to share. So those are all things that really do fall on the customer. So while the tool of Agentforce itself, is secure by design, a lot of it really does fall onto the customer when it comes to ensuring that it's deployed with proper governance.
Thank you, Connor. That was super informative. And now, Tapas, from the Salesforce architecture point of view, how do you see this security responsibility split?
Yeah, definitely. It's come down to this shared responsibility principle. Um, Connor has already explained some of the principles. I would not reiterate them, but I would like to discuss about what Salesforce provides. So that is the Einstein trust layer. It says that it's built for trust. It provides um, dynamic grounding, masking of sensitive data, zero data retention, and secure data retrieval. But it's up to you how you configure it right. So if you, let's say, use a third party LLM model and you are not using these approved routings, then your data can reside and can be misused. So at the end, Salesforce gives you tools and Agentforce gives you like powerful intelligent automation. But it's up to you how you build it, and that decides your security posture at the end.
Thanks both. This is a very important concept for everyone to understand who is working with Salesforce and the Agentforce security areas. So, Salesforce provides a secure foundation, but it's the customer's responsibility to build on top of that responsibly and with security in mind, including the AI agents
Definitely,
and the
definitely.
data on top of it, of course.
Oh.
And to our next myth is AI just makes things easier. Personally, I can say that AI does make things a lot easier for me. So LLMs are taking care of plenty of the so-called grunt work. Now with Agentforce, use cases like customer support built on Service Cloud are definitely something that early adopters are tinkering with at first, and efficiency gains both for the customers and for the support agents are obviously massive in these use cases. So things do get easier for both. But what kinds of drawbacks are there now accompanying these gains? Could you, Connor, share your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So even Agentforce aside, what we've seen from as a security provider in the Salesforce platform over the past few years is an increase in social engineering attacks via support channels. So attackers posing as customers, as partners, right, and then sharing malicious files, malicious links with support or service team members. So that type of attack can really be exacerbated by Agentforce because of the sort of speed and scale that Agentforce can integrate with downstream third-party systems. It can pass that information more quickly to human agents. It can have more of those conversations at any given time. So it's not necessarily a new threat, but it is the scale at which Agentforce can potentially spread those threats is sort of what's new here.
So scale and speed.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now, like outside of these direct customer interaction use cases, we also know that Agentforce is bringing quite a bit of efficiency gains for internal users who are looking for account data and summarizing that, or looking for any kind of old information about the case, for example. How are the risks there? Could you, Connor, mirror this to the use cases that you have seen customers actually building on Salesforce, whether with Agentforce or not?
Exactly. So outside of just service use cases, if you think about sales use cases, maybe an agent is fetching data from a case record from 3 years ago for a salesperson, right? Or maybe some old account data, or maybe it's from a third party system pulling in some fields or files, whatever it may be, to help that salesperson work more efficiently. So those things, right? Those use cases need real time protection because they pose a risk to internal users as well. It's important that those things are scanned in real time because likely 3 years ago, a lot of companies didn't have scanning solutions in place, right? So that is also sort of one of the risk factors here is um, the amount of data that agents have access to from within Salesforce, from third party systems, and how quickly they can spread that. Um, Oftentimes for good reasons, right? But to internal users, not only external users.
Thanks, Connor. So even though things are getting easier, the importance of the data hygiene and the actual safety of the data on Salesforce that the agents might fetch becomes really crucial.
Exactly.
Okay, thanks, Connor. And now onwards, let's talk a little bit about the regulated industries. So it can seem like industries such as healthcare and finance are a bit too cautious to be the early adopters of agentic AI. Tapas, what are these healthcare and financial services organizations doing differently with Agentforce?
Yeah, as per the latest report published, it has said that 65% of S&P 500 companies, including this sectors you mentioned, have already adopted AI. But Still, they are a bit cautious about that because they deal with a lot of sensitive data, like PII and even financial data. So one single mishap can lead to data exposure and reputational damage for the company and even customer distrust. So they are not avoiding AI, but they are a bit cautious over that. And latest report published that some of this AI risk, which they have identified among the sectors, are sort of algorithmic bias, which can result in faulty claim processing or kind of uh, like defining the price when customer trying to buy a policy. Apart from it can result into some IP theft or some sort of data leakage. But the good part is that this will be the industries will gain the most if AI agents deployed at scale and securely. Because AI agents can help in faster claim processing or automated credit checks, even provide personalized customer service. But in order to get there, they need to think about the security first, so that they do like sort of AI mishaps doesn't happen. Because if that does happen, then it could be a massive blow to that particular organization or company.
Thanks, Tapas. So regulated industries are not saying no to AI, but they're just saying yes with security first mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's probably the same with any other IT initiative there anyway. And now outside of these regulated sectors, a complete opposite sometimes is that let's just deploy it and think about the security matters later. That can apply whether it's AI or any other Salesforce use case as sometimes seen, which brings us to the next myth. We'll deal with security later. Connor, for companies just getting started with Agentforce, why is "we'll secure it later" dangerous mindset? What would be your advice?
Yeah, I think that's definitely not the right mindset for companies to approach anything with, but especially something like Agentforce. Right, the moment an agent is live, it's going to interact with users, with data. So customers should start with very clear use cases and make sure that they're designing these use cases with those kind of secure by design principles that Tapas mentioned earlier and that we kind of spoke to a bit earlier. So things like data classification, governance, compliance, those should all be taken into consideration. Right, if there's any sort of concerns, you should work with those teams internally to make sure that what you're doing is sort of measured and your approach is safe. But waiting on security means that potentially be exposing real users to sort of untested risks. Um, so all of those secure design principles like encryption, validation rules, access management, those are all things that need to be considered uh, at every step of designing any sort of Agentforce use case, in my opinion.
Yeah, so if a team is now just getting started with building Agentforce use cases, they should just keep the basic security hygiene in mind. That gets everyone quite far.
Exactly.
Excellent. Excellent discussion. And now, before we wrap up, I'd like to touch base on something that we have been working on behind the scenes here at WithSecure. So, we have been aligning ourselves with how Salesforce and agentic AI are evolving and the threats with those. And we have been developing a dedicated Agentforce native threat protection extension to WithSecure Cloud Protection for Salesforce. This is now something completely unique in the market, and Tapas here has been personally very closely involved with building this product. So, Tapas, would you like to share a little bit about your experiences in the process?
Yeah, definitely. I can share some of my experience when I started with the Agent Force. I learned the power of the AI agents and how to harness them in the right way. Uh, However, I can provide few tips from my experiences while building this extension package. So when you are planning to have an AI agent, first think of what that AI agent is supposed to do, what actions it gonna perform. So based on that, you should kind of clearly mention the job description of that particular AI agent. Next comes the guardrails. So you should properly define the guardrails that agent should not go beyond. Third thing is that when you are thinking of topics, just consider one topic for one particular actions to perform. Otherwise, if you have multiple topics, then it can go in a race condition, and it can kind of create problems in kind of grounding logic, or the logic with atlas reasoning. So always clearly mention the topic instructions, and if you are using any topic actions, or like planning to have some custom actions, clearly defined each variable, clearly defined what that particular action is supposed to do, because these are the data will be fed to that LLM, and that will decide when your action or the topic should run and how to run. So these things are very important. And whenever you are deploying an AI agent, have a strict and scope permission set. Otherwise, it can leak sensitive data to the customers. Just kind of think of an example of insurance company where customer has raised a claim, and claim adjuster has kind of written some notes into the claim why the verdict of that particular claim is such. And if you allow LLM to also take that information for grounding and respond it to customer, so that information also can be revealed to the customer, so that you don't want it to happen, right? So have a proper plan about all those security strategies, and then use that AI agent testing center, um, and deploy agent, and properly monitor the agent response, um, and regularly audit and monitor those logs for any abnormalities of the AI agent response and all those things.
Thanks, Tapas. What was your first thought when you first heard of Agentforce, by the way?
So, like any other Salesforce product, like when I heard about Agentforce, like I know that it's gonna be something really important, and gonna be something big, because as a technology provider, Salesforce always is known for being the leader in this kind of industry trend for any sort of technology trends. And previously also we had chatbots, but what this Agentforce agent will be different, because it can understand the human responses, I mean the natural language, and can invoke all those actions. So definitely, Agentforce uh, will be helpful for a lot of companies to streamline their processes, and they will become their digital workforce, definitely.
And we're just at the beginning now. What about you, Connor? What did you think when you first heard of Agentforce coming to the markets?
I think in the very beginning when it was announced, uh, it was difficult to, at least for myself, to kind of understand, like we talked about earlier, is this just a new feature? Is this a new cloud? Sort of what's the offering, the differentiator? But very quickly sort of realized that this isn't just a new feature. This really is kind of a shift in direction for the company being Salesforce, of course. And Salesforce has, and the world has really gone all in on AI in the past 9 to 12 months, right? So uh, it's I think very exciting for the company. It's exciting how uh, it's been able to sort of be incorporated to the platform that everybody has known and loved for many years, many decades. Um, so yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised since.
Yeah, now just watching how the customers are actually getting started with it. So you at least are on the front lines to be observing that. Yeah,
Exactly.
thank you both. Back to our security extension. So that is now something. as said, that we have been building behind the scenes and are about to launch very soon. And it is unique in the market in a sense that it is truly Agentforce native. It's not something that has been bolted on from the outside, but it's actually security living inside Salesforce natively, stopping cyber threats like phishing, malware, and ransomware, as WithSecure Cloud Protection for Salesforce is doing. Okay, so to conclude, the signs are pretty clear that the AI agents are not going anywhere anytime soon, and they are changing the way that we work and how we use Salesforce. And securing them should not be left to any assumptions and also not as something to be thought out later. So thanks again for joining us, and huge thanks to Connor and Tapas for busting the myths with me.
Thanks, Elisa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Until next time.